this normal, a 25-year lag in data protection?
No, we are not doing our job properly now. You know, Switzerland was one of the first country about data privacy, and now we have waited too long, and our neighbors have done the job. The GDPR is going to be applicable since the 25th of May, and our law is not compliant with all we have signed with other countries.
So this really puts us on the back foot then?
So what I think is that when other countries have done a lot of job to find the most interesting solution, you don't need to find another way. You need to follow the way they have chosen, because these countries are working with Switzerland. So the best way for me is to take over what's interesting in their law and to put it in our law. But a lot of people are afraid of applicating the UA law, and now it's difficult to convince them that it is a good law.
And you, in fact, signed an open letter to politicians demanding for more change. What are your main concerns?
So we are afraid that in a global market, some companies that are on the market against Swiss companies, they take advantage of being compliant. If you are competing for getting a big market, perhaps in Europe, and they control that you respect some rules, and they see that in Switzerland, most of the rules of GDPR are not respected now because of our old law, then you will lose the market. So the Swiss companies have this problem. And the second problem is that they will be compliant because they need to respect European law when they offer produce or services to European citizens. And then in perhaps 3 years, they need to be compliant to the Swiss law. It doesn't make sense because you have to pay too much money to be twice compliant. That's too difficult.
Is this a bit, sorry to interrupt, but is this a bit more like yet another Swiss finish? And that wouldn't do us any favours?
I don't think, no, I don't think so, because we won't be clever than all these countries who have worked more than 10 years about all these topics. I can take the example of data portability. This is really important. In our next Swiss law, it's not included. We need to work a lot to convince the people to include it in our law. That doesn't make sense, because if you're a European citizen, you have more rights than Swiss citizens. The citizens have to understand that they will be less well treated by the big companies as Facebook, as all European citizens.
You bring up Facebook. How were we affected by the Facebook scandal here in Switzerland?
So a lot of newspapers have spoken about 30,000 people that are impacted. You can make your check on Facebook. There is now a link to control that if you have been affected or not. I think they won't tell the truth at this moment, because nobody has the ability to control what they have explained. But the ICO in Great Britain has taken a lot of data by Cambridge Analytics. And now they are not only controlling the data, but they are making some investigations to know if Facebook has told us the truth or not. And then we will have the feedback.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's very interesting to hear you say that you don't trust Facebook because you have shares in Facebook. Yes. Why?
I have shares in Facebook. Yes, because it's better to control them. When you have shares, you can ask questions to the board. You can ask, even if you're not satisfied, you can ask that the board is changing, and you can make them more actions, legal actions. It's not necessary to be affected, personally affected as I would be as Swiss citizen by this Cambridge Analytica affair.
Do you have a Facebook account?
Yes, I have it. I have a lot of followers, more than 5,000. And all the people are asking me, why do you have it? Because if I don't have it, I cannot understand how it works, what is right and what is wrong. And I need it for my job. So it's not a question for me. It's only a necessity for my job now. But I think that all citizens have to express that they are not happy. And this power will be more important than the Congress in the US, because, you know, it's a walk of shame. It's only a show off. Nobody will do anything against this company. But in Europe, things will be different. We are not joking anymore. And since the 25th of May, they will to They will explain what they do. And as you know, in France, for example, they have now some problems with the CNIL. That is the Data Privacy Commissioner for this country. They have asked them some informations. And if they don't do properly the job, they will receive a penalty.
Well, let's bring it back to Switzerland. You know, we've had our own fair share of data scandals. 800,000 Swisscom customers had their data or their non-sensitive data stolen. Now, Swisscom apologised at the time, but do you think that's enough of a punishment?
No, absolutely not. Because in Switzerland, if you don't do what is expected from you, we will only recommend you to change your behavior. That doesn't work. It needs to be more effective. And according to our new Swiss law, the penalty will only be 250,000 Swiss francs for each case. This is peanuts. This is peanuts for companies like Facebook. So if the politicians don't understand that citizens won't be protected with these laws, we will have a lot of problems. But I hope that the GDPR will be applied to a lot of Swiss companies, and so it will become the new world standard. And so if you have the possibility to make perhaps an action against these companies that are not compliant in Europe, perhaps in Switzerland, the people will understand that it makes sense to ask them to be more responsible.
But how can we take action against companies here or anywhere else in the world if kind of the biggest tech company in the world, Facebook, you heard it from Brian Stelter earlier, our CNN senior media correspondent, say it's very unlikely that we'll see any further regulation on Facebook, and therefore there's no incentive for companies to comply and to improve their practices.
So the G29 is a group of all European data privacy commissioners has publicated this day one letter where it's written clearly that's not enough. And we will ask from you much more than you have promised before the Congress. So I think the point of views are different in Europe and in the US. And if they want to make money in Europe, they need to follow our rules. You know, for the conditions of Facebook in Germany, you have different conditions. State has put much pressure on the company so that they respect the German laws. So if in Switzerland we had politicians that had more perhaps courage, they could ask them to be more compliant. The first step was made when we are asking them to have a company in Switzerland so that we can control what they do with our data. But that's not enough, because if you have only a company and not the data here, then it will be difficult for the citizens to be protected. So the next step will be to ask them to have the data about the citizens of a country in this country so that they can make applications of the rights. You have a right. You have the right to access to your data. Now we will try to get it in Switzerland against the Facebook company who is now making advertisement, and we will see what they will answer.
And so what's the future then, do you think? You know, if our data is the new gold, what's the future for social media users?
I think in the end, we will need to have the same rights as they have about our data. So if they are transparent and they say us what they do with the data, I can accept or not. It's only a question of consent. A lot of us are ready to give the data if they are able to understand what is being made with it. And perhaps some people are speaking about earning money with data. I don't think it's possible, because it will be too difficult to regulate this market. But in perhaps 1 year or 2 years, when they have received penalty from Europe, they will change their way of being with their customers, because in the end, it's only a question of confidence. You know, when they have lost the confidence of all their customers, they will lose a lot of money, and then the company has to find other way to survive. And I hope that competitors will appear, competitors who will respect more the rules.